Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Vishesha Shunyavadi Aschatya Deshatarine Manchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Namaste Takkanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Charanarottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashta Prayesha Vavadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. We're reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 10. We're continuing the Rasa Panchadhyaya overview.
咁我哋今日繼續咧去到閱讀《聖典課家雅談》第10篇，裏面咧講到呢一個Rasa 之母嘅呢個逍遙時光，總共5章嘅。
And we will conclude today with the final chapter, which is chapter 33.
咁我哋呢幾日咧一齊咧為呢5章咧做咗一個概述啦。今日咧我哋去到第33章啦。
Which is entitled the Rasa Dance.
咁呢一章咧嘅標題咧就係 Rasa 舞。
And I thought we could read verse number 3.
我哋可以一齊讀第3節詩。
Which is Anushtup, and it's 4, 6, 10 lines. So it's unusual in that regard.
所以呢一節詩咧比較特別啲嘅，因為咧佢總共有10行嘅10句，總共有10句。
Instead of 4 lines, it goes to 10 lines.
咁所以一般咧我哋4句嘅，呢度咧有10句。
Rāsotsavaḥ sampravṛtto gopī-maṇḍala-maṇḍitaḥ yogeśvareṇa kṛṣṇena kaṇṭhe sva-nikaṭaṁ striyaḥ yam manyeran nabhas vimāna-śata-saṅkulam divaukasāṁ sa-dārāṇām autsukyāpahṛtātmanām
rāsotsavaḥ sampravṛtto gopī-maṇḍala-maṇḍitaḥ yogeśvareṇa kṛṣṇena tāsāṁ madhye dvayor praviṣṭena gṛhītānāṁ kaṇṭhe sva-nikaṭaṁ striyaḥ yam manyeran nabhas tāvad vimāna-śata-saṅkulam divaukasāṁ sa-dārāṇām autsukyāpahṛtātmanām
rāsotsavaḥ sampravṛtto gopī-maṇḍala-maṇḍitaḥ yogeśvareṇa kṛṣṇena tāsāṁ madhye dvayor praviṣṭena gṛhītānāṁ kaṇṭhe sva-nikaṭaṁ striyaḥ manyeran nabhas tāvad vimāna-śata-saṅkulam dvayoḥ sa-dārāṇām
Rasa sampravṛtto gopī-maṇḍala-maṇḍitaḥ yogeśvareṇa kṛṣṇena tāsāṁ praviṣṭena gṛhītānāṁ kaṇṭhe sva-nikaṭaṁ striyaḥ yam manyeran nabhas vimāna-śata-saṅkulam divaukasāṁ sa-dārāṇām autsukyāpahṛtātmanām
rāsotsavaḥ sampravṛtto gopī-maṇḍala-maṇḍitaḥ yogeśvareṇa kṛṣṇena tāsāṁ manyeran nabhas vimāna-śata-saṅkulam divaukasāṁ sa-dārāṇām autsukyāpahṛtātmanām
Okay. Rasa of the rasa dance.
Rasa 無的
Utsavaḥ, the festivity.
歡樂
sampravṛtto commenced.
開始
gopī-maṇḍala-maṇḍitaḥ, by the circle of gopis.
由牧牛姑娘圍成的圈
Manḍitaḥ, decorated.
裝飾
Yoga of mystic power.
神秘力量的
yogeśvareṇa, by the supreme controller.
被至尊控制者
kṛṣṇena, Lord Krishna.
主 Krishna
tāsāṁ, of them.
他們的
madhye, within the midst.
在中間
dvayor, between each pair.
在每一對之間
praviṣṭena, present.
出現
gṛhītānāṁ, who were held.
被環繞
kaṇṭhe, by the cheek, by the neck.
膊
sva-nikaṭaṁ, next to themselves.
在他們身旁
striyaḥ, the women.
女人們
yam, whom.
人
manyeran, considered.
敬畏
nabhas, the sky.
天空
tāvad,
tāvad
at that time.
那時
vimāna, of airplanes.
飛機的
śata, with hundreds.
有幾百個
saṅkulam, crowded.
擁擠的
diva, of the heavenly planets.
天堂星球的
divaukasāṁ, belonging to the inhabitants.
屬於的居民
accompanied.
陪伴
sva-nikaṭaṁ, by their wives.
由他們的妻子
autsukyāpahṛtātmanām, by eagerness.
被渴望
carried away.
帶走
atmanām, their mind.
他們的心
So you know what this is going to be about. The festive rasa dance commenced with the gopis arrayed in a circle. Lord Krishna expanded himself and entered between each pair of gopis, and as that master of mystic power placed his arms around their necks, each girl thought he was standing next to her alone. The demigods and their wives were overwhelmed with eagerness to witness the rasa dance, and they soon crowded the sky with their hundreds of celestial airplanes.
譯文：母牛姑娘圍成一圈，歡樂的那沙舞開始了。主 Krishna 擴展自己，進入每一對母牛姑娘之間，在那位神秘力量的主人用他的手臂環繞他們的脖子時，每一位母牛姑娘都以為他只站在自己身邊。半神人和他們的妻子都極度渴望親眼目睹那沙舞，於是乘坐飛機趕往現場。天空中很快就混集起成百上千的飛機。
Purport? No. Yes. I wanted to say translation and purport by the followers of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami.
譯文同埋要旨由 A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami 嘅追隨者所表提供。
Purport: Srila vimāna-śata-saṅkulam has written the following verse about the rasa dance. Anganam anganam mantara madhavo madhavam madhavam shantarenam gana ittam akalpite mandale madhyaga sanjaga venuna devaki nandana. Lord Manava was situated between each pair of gopis, and a gopi was situated between each pair of his manifestations. And Sri Krishna, the son of Devaki, also appeared in the middle of the circle, playing upon his flute and singing. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that the gopis, maddened by love, were unable to understand that Sri Krishna had expanded himself so he could personally dance with each of them. Each gopi saw one manifestation of Krishna. The demigods and their wives, however, could see all his different manifestations as they watched the rasa dance from their airplanes, and thus they were completely astonished.
要旨就有關那沙舞，聖 vimāna-śata-saṅkulam 寫了如下一節詩：主 Madhava 站在每兩位木牛姑娘間，一個木牛姑娘站在他的兩個展示間。Devaki 的兒子聖 Krishna 也出現在圓圈的中間，吹奏他的笛子並唱歌。聖 Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur 指出，因愛而發狂的木牛姑娘們無法明白聖 Krishna 擴展自己，以便能親自與他們每一個人共舞。每一個木牛姑娘都看到一個 Krishna 的展示，但半神人和他們的妻子在他們的飛機上觀看 rasa 舞時，能看到他所有不同的展示，因此完全驚呆了。
In the previous chapter, we saw how Krishna returns and reappears before the gopis, and they have an interesting discussion.
咁喺上一章咧，Krishna 咧就翻嚟咧，為咗木牛姑娘，然之後咧佢哋之間咧有一個好有趣嘅討論。
And their discussion is about, it's a kind of typology of love and friendship.
Psychology.
No, not psychology.
Not psychology.
Typology.
Typology.
We always give our translators a workout.
Lover and friendship.
A typology is you can say a setup of types, a listing of types.
OK， 咁所以咧佢係有啲類別嘅。咁呢一個對話裡面咧係展示咗咧呢個愛侶啦同埋朋友之間嘅類別。
Do we remember which? There were three main categories.
咁記唔記得有三個主要嘅類別嘅
Remember what they were?
The first one for business only, for material gain of their own self.
Louder.
？Loud.
It's, the first type is for business, like business for their own material desire, for
Okay.
benefit.
All right.
咁第一類咧係好似做交易、做生意咁樣嘅，咁係為咗自己個人利益而去 到建立嘅關係。
So we can say that's the materialist love, if you like.
咁我哋可以將呢個咧稱為係一個物質主義者嘅愛咯。
And second,
第二類咧，
unconditional.
okay, we can call it unconditional love.
咁第二類咧可以話稱為無條件嘅愛咯。
And the third,
It's a mixture of 4 types.
yeah, but it's still distinct.
咁係有
That was a long time ago. It was yesterday.
好耐之前講㗎啦，係琴日講嘅。
Someone who belongs to the Atmanam category.
Okay, that was one of the subcategories. There were 4 subcategories. But what's the general category?
喺第三類裏面咧，其中一個細項咧就係講呢一個自我滿足嘅人，但係整體嚟講係講緊邊一類人咧？
Roughly something. Yeah, one of the subcategories. We've got 2 of the subcategories now: the Atmarama, and then on the opposite end, you can say of moral value is the ungrateful one.
然後就嗰啲忘恩負義嘅人。
Yeah. So the general category is indifference.
咁所以咧呢個
Indifference
可以
to love.
被稱為呢一種人咧係好冷漠嘅。
And there were four categories, but we could say Atmarama and akritagya, ungrateful. These were
咁所以呢類人係好忘恩負義啦，或者對其他人係漠不關心。
And then the question is, so which category does Krishna fall into?
咁我哋有個問題就係 Krishna 係屬於邊一類嘅人啊？
The gopis are having mixed feelings at this point because, Krishna disappeared. They've given themselves completely to Krishna, then Krishna disappeared.
咁所以我哋可以諗下木麻姑娘呢個 Krishna 咧係屬於邊一類人？咁佢對於木麻姑娘嚟講，佢覺得好迷惑，究竟佢係屬於邊一類人？因為佢哋為 Krishna 咧去到放棄一切嚟到啦，然之後 Krishna 就消失咗。
But now Krishna has reappeared, but they want some clarification from him. Why has he done this?
咁所以 Krishna 翻嚟啦，但係咧佢哋想要去到啲澄清就係、究竟 Krishna 點解會消失咧？
And finally they get the clarification. Krishna explains, I wanted to increase your love by having you experience a feeling of separation.
咁最後咧 Krishna 咧去解答到佢哋啦。其實我咁樣做咧係為咗咧增強咧你對我嘅愛慕之情啦，去做增強呢種透過呢個分離去增強呢個愛慕之情。
Now we might still ask the same question: which category is he part of?
咁我哋可以繼續問呢個問題，究竟佢係屬於邊一類嘅人？
Well, we could do a process of elimination, right?
我哋可以用剔除法。
Does he fit in the first category?
No.
咁佢屬唔屬於第一類咧？即係呢個交易嘅組
Does he
織。
fit in the third category?
係咪第三類咧？好冷漠嘅。
Are you sure?
肯定。
Krishna is grateful to the gopis.
Huh?
Krishna is grateful to the
He is
gopis.
grateful.
And he said he cannot repay them,
Oh, you're getting ahead of the story.
but he wanted perfect love.
Yeah, so, okay. So you want to put him in the second category?
咁所以你將佢擺喺第二類人去，因為佢 Krishna 講到佢冇辦法去到回報木麻姑娘對佢嘅愛。
Or does he fall in a category all his own? Maybe he's in a fourth category.
或者佢自己係自創咗一個類別，佢屬於第四類嚟。
In any case, indeed, he makes this confession at the very end of the previous chapter. He says, I cannot reciprocate your love.
咁所以喺上一章第32章最後一節詩咧 ，Krishna 就做咗一個懺悔，佢就話我係報答唔到你對我嘅愛。
Well, we may more accurately say, he says, I cannot adequately reciprocate your love.
或者我哋可以另一個講法就係、我冇辦法完全咁樣去到回報，去到回應你對我嘅愛。
And so he makes a proposal at the very end of that verse.
咁喺最後嘅最後嘅一節詩裏面嗰一部分咧 ，Krishna 就有一個提議。
And what's his proposal?
咁佢個提議係乜嘢咧？
Yeah, be satisfied with your own goodness.
咁你哋就為住你哋所做嘅善行咧而去感到滿足啦。
Does that sound like a very satisfying proposal?
即係你哋滿足於你哋自己所做嘅善行啦。咁你覺得咁樣嘅提議可唔可以令到佢哋滿意咧？
So the chapter ends on this kind of note of, how should we say, uncertainty perhaps?
咁所以呢一章第32章咧，最後咧其實都係有一種唔肯定嘅。
And yet, we'll see in the very beginning of the next chapter, the gopis are completely satisfied with Krishna's words.
咁呢個係對比於我哋而家即將讀嘅第33章咧，喺呢度咧，牧牛姑娘咧係完全嘅滿足。
Itam bhagavato gopya shrutvaha vacha, having heard those such words of the Lord, which were supeshala, charming, very charming words.
咁所以喺第33章第一節詩裏面咧，講到牧牛姑娘咧聽到 Krishna 所講嘅説話咧，係令到佢哋好開心，而 Krishna 咧所講嘅説話咧係好迷人。
So the gopis, after hearing Krishna saying, I'm sorry, I can't reciprocate fully with you, they might have responded, that's a big disappointment.
咁所以當牧牛姑娘聽到 Krishna 講話，我冇辦法回報你哋，報答你哋，咁牧牛姑娘就好失望。
But instead, they take his words as endearing. Making him even more dear.
咁但係牧牛姑娘咧聽到 Krishna 講呢個説話咧，係令到佢哋感覺咧 Krishna 更加即係更加拉近佢哋同埋 Krishna 之間嘅距離，更加親近。
His words are supeshala. They are especially charming.
咁喺呢一節詩裏面咧，呢、個梵文字 supeshala 意思即係話咧係最迷人嘅。
So one of the themes throughout the Bhagavatam is the power of speech.
咁喺《寶迦雅談》裏面咧，其中一個好重要嘅主題咧，就係呢一個嘅説話。
Sometimes someone will speak a sentence of cursing.
咁有時候有人可能講一句説話咧，係去到詛咒嘅。
And other times there are words of blessing.
有時咧會係一啲説話咧係給予祝福嘅。
And there's always kind of a question of how far, to what extent, language has the power to describe the spiritual reality.
咁所以有時候咧，呢一個語言咧係我哋會問有幾大程度咧，佢係可以咧去到描述呢一個靈性嘅真相。
But here we have Krishna's supeshala vacha, his very sweet words.
但係呢度咧，我哋聽到嘅咧係 Krishna 咧好講呢一番説話咧，而呢啲説話咧係好令人愉快嘅、愉悅嘅。
And we could say these words are initiating now the celebration which is described in this chapter.
咁所以咧 ，Krishna 講呢一番嘅説話咧，其實咧係準備咧之後咧所展開嘅嗰一場嘅慶祝。
And I think it's a nice way to characterize the description in this chapter of the rasa dance. It's a big celebration.
咁所以喺呢一度講到嘅呢個 rasa 舞咧，其實係一個好大嘅慶典嚟㗎，我哋可以將佢歸類為呢個慶典。
What's being celebrated?
咁係為咗啲乜嘢而去到慶祝咧？
Prema, okay. Yes, we can say prema, love,
或者
pure
我哋
love.
可以講純粹嘅愛啦，去到慶祝。
We can also say pure love is being acted out. It's being enacted. It's happening. This is how pure love looks.
咁所以我哋呢度講，我哋呢度所睇到嘅就係純粹嘅愛係點樣去到上演出嚟，點樣去到演出嚟。
But the whole 5 chapters is also describing how pure love looks.
咁所以整個5章咧，其實咧都係去到描述呢個純粹嘅愛咧係一個咩嘅樣子嚟。
We could say also that this is a resuming of the dance because, of course, in chapter 29, there is a beginning dance.
咁所以我哋呢一度咧都可以講，其實佢係重拾翻嗰個戲嘅部分啦。因為咧喺29章嘅時候咧，其實已經係開始跳咗少少舞嘅。
And then it was, we can say, interrupted.
跟住咧係被中斷啦。
Which then became the dramatic element of the whole drama.
跟住就開始呢個成出戲嘅最戲劇性嘅部分。
So now the problem in the drama has been resolved, and we come to that's another French word, dénouement, the ending, the natural conclusion.
OK， 咁所以咧係呢一出戲嘅
Dénouement.
裡面嘅呢一個嘅問題啦，已經咧得到解決啦，所以咧而家咧進入咧呢個戲嘅結尾嘅部分。
So the first 10 verses of this chapter are the description of the rasa dance.
咁所以喺呢一章嘅頭嗰10節詩咧，係去到描述咧 rasa 舞嘅。
And first we get a reference to where it's happening. It's happening on the banks of the Yamuna River.
首先咧，我哋知道咧呢一個慶典咧係喺邊度去到發生嘅，咁咧就喺亞姆納河嘅河畔。
And it says he's dancing in the company of those jewels among women.
咁咧係講到呢一場舞咧係呢個女士裏面嘅珠寶。
Striyaḥ. Striyaḥ.
珠寶。Which was
Jewels.
珠寶。
Jewels.
珠寶。珠寶。
Yes, we have it. Okay. This analogy is going to come up again of jewels and the jewels set in an ornament that will come later.
咁呢一個嘅比喻咧，呢一個寶石咧、珠寶咧嘅比喻咧，作為一個裝飾啊，咁咧喺後面咧會再出現嘅呢一個嘅比喻。
And here it says that the gopis linked arms with each other. Anyonya abad bahu.
咁呢度咧講到咧，母牛姑娘咧，佢哋咧係手挽住手咁樣。
Which is interesting because immediately after it's going to say everyone thinks they're alone with Krishna. So how does that work?
咁因為呢度有少少有意思嘅地方就係因為佢哋挽住手啦，但係之後又講到咧，佢哋覺得自己只係自己一個同 Krishna 去跳舞，咁點樣去到理解咧？
And then in the verse we have just read, there's some more detail about how they were dancing.
然之後我哋啱啱讀過嗰一節詩咧，就講描述到咧佢哋係點樣去跳舞法嘅。
And it's mentioned in this verse that the Lord is yogeśvareṇa.
咁喺呢一節詩裏面咧，去到提到咧主嘅名字 yogeśvareṇa， 神秘力量嘅主人。
And Sridhar Swami explains this is pointing to the fact, because the Lord is Yogeśvara, therefore he can expand himself in so many forms and be with each gopi.
咁所以 Srila Swami 咧去到解釋咧，其實呢度咧有一個暗示，就係因為主係神秘力量嘅主人，所以咧佢咧係能夠咧去到擴展自己，去到陪伴住每一位嘅無礙姑娘。
As a counterpoint or possibly a complement to this, Vishwanath Chakravarti says that what's really going on here is that Yoga Maya is acting.
咁 Vishwanath Chakravarti 咧講到咧，其實喺呢一度咧Yoga Maya 嘅能量咧，其實係喺度工作緊。
So whether it's because Krishna is Yogeśvara or because Yoga Maya is involved, or a combination of both, in any case, it's an amazing dance that's happening.
咁所以無論係因為 Krishna 嘅神秘嘅力量啦，抑或係 Yoga Maya 嘅能量啦，或者係兩者一齊去到工作啦，呢一場舞咧都係非常之精彩嘅。
And one thing that's amazing is that the gopis, according to this verse, are each thinking, I am alone with Krishna.
咁呢個好特別嘅地方就係 Krishna， 無礙姑娘咧，佢覺得咧自己咧係唯一一個同 Krishna 喺埋一齊跳舞嘅女士。
But in the same verse, it's mentioning that the demigods, from their perspective, they're all crowding around in their pushpa vimanas above, and they're looking down, they're peering down. And they see that Krishna is with all the gopis.
咁但係喺後部分嗰一個翻譯英文裏面講到咧，半神人咧同埋佢哋嘅妻子咧都講到去現場，然之後咧喺上空咧係睇住見證咧佢哋所有人。
So,
Krishna 同埋無礙姑娘一齊。
I think this is interesting.
我覺得呢個非常之有意思。
That the Bhagavatam is pointing to two different perspectives and perception of Krishna.
咁所以咧，《gopī-maṇḍala-maṇḍitaḥ》呢度咧係展現咗兩個嘅視域，咁咧係佢哋睇到 Krishna， 但係個唔同嘅形象。
Yeah, and it reminds me of another kind of famous verse that comes later when Krishna and Balaram enter the wrestling arena of Kamsa.
咁呢個咧亦都讓我諗起咧喺之後講到咧Krishna 同埋 Balaram 啦，去到喺呢個搏鬥場上面去面對 Kamsa。
Mala-nama-shanir-nidam narabara-strinam smaro-murtimam gopānaṁ svajano-satam kshitibujam shastasa-pitro-shishu mrityur-bojapatir irada-vidisham svapam-puram yoginam kṛṣṇenam paradevate viditam rangagata sabrajam. It's describing how each of the different types of people who are seeing Krishna and Balaram see him in different ways.
咁所以喺嗰個搏鬥場啊，有好多人去到圍觀啦，而每一個人咧去見到Krishna 同埋 Balaram 喺呢一個嘅摔角場上面咧，佢哋都諗緊睇到嘅嘢都唔一樣。
The women see him as Cupid. On the other side, Kamsa sees him as death.
咁所以嗰啲女士咧見到佢哋咧就覺得佢哋係丘比特，但係 Kamsa 咧見到佢哋咧就覺得佢哋係死亡。
The Gopas see him as one of their own svajana, one of their own people.
咁嗰啲牛童咧見到佢哋咧就覺得係佢哋同黨嚟嘅，同一陣營嘅。
And so on.
諸如此類。
Another point is that this mention of the demigods and their wives also are there, everyone's there watching, it's pointing to how this is a cosmic event.
咁所以半神人啦，仲有佢哋嘅妻子啦，都一齊咧係在場咧去到目睹呢一件事啦，所以可以話咧呢一個整件事咧其實係一個宇宙性嘅。
So there's a bit of a paradox here.
咁有一個矛盾嘅地方。
On the one side, it's a cosmic event, the demigods are there, they can see what's going on, they can see even more than what the gopis see.
咁所以呢一啲嘅觀神人啦，去到睇呢個宇宙嘅事件啦，佢哋見到咧當時佢哋所做嘅事啦，比母牛姑娘咧所睇到嘅咧更加多。
On the other side, this is a most private event. It's the celebration of love, which is intimate love, and therefore intimacy we think of as private.
咁但係同一時間呢一個嘅事情，其實係一個好親密嘅事情嚟嘅，係即係愛侶之間嘅事情，但係又好似公開咗俾人睇到。
In any case, we get more description of the kind of celebratory character of this. Indeed, the demigods participate. In verse number 4, it mentions their kettle drums, dundubi, are being beaten.
咁所以我哋之後咧會更加去到認識到咧，其實呢一個咧係一個慶典啦，點樣係即係歸類於呢個類別啦。咁呢啲半神人咧，佢亦都係有參與當中嘅。喺第4節詩裏面咧就講到咧有呢一啲嘅定音鼓聲響切天空。
And in case you've ever wondered what exactly does a dundubi look like?
咁你可能會覺得好疑惑就係究竟呢個定音鼓係咩樣嘅咧？
Has anyone ever wondered this? No, you've never wondered.
有冇諗過係咩種咩嘅樂器嚟嘅？
Well, we wondered. We means myself and Radhikaraman Prabhu, as we were preparing our book, our abridged Bhagavatam, and we translated the first 10 verses of this chapter. We thought, what does a dundubi look like? And so we did some research.
咁所以當我準備呢一本嘅國家雅談嘅書嘅時候咧，咁我同埋我嘅一齊合作嘅一個奉獻者啦，寫呢本書嘅奉獻者 Radhikaraman Prabhu 咧，就去翻譯咗呢一章嘅頭10個詩節嘅。咁我哋都有個問題就係究竟呢個 dundubi 嘅鼓係咩樣嘅咧？我哋做咗啲研究。
And according to one scholar of classical Indian music,
咁根據一位呢一個傳統古典印度音樂嘅教授所講
it is a pair of medium-sized kettle drums. Kettle. Big pot.
咁係一中等大小嘅一對嘅一個。
The kettle, it's sort of round, half sphere.
咁係有少弧形嘅，弧形嘅。
Yes. Less than 3 feet in diameter.
咁佢嘅直徑咧係少於3尺嘅。
And beaten with sticks.
咁咧係用呢個棒咧係去到敲擊嘅打嘅。
The instrument is played still today in the folk music traditions of Raja.
咁喺 Raja 咧，佢係呢個民歌嘅一個傳統裏邊咧，仲係有用到呢個樂器。
And in various other areas in India.
咁喺其他印度其他嘅地方都有使用嘅。
So if anyone asks you, what is a dundubi? You will know.
所以如果有人問你咩係 dundubi 鼓嘅時候，你就知道點樣答。
Maybe we should get some dundubis.
可能我哋要幫 temple 設置一啲 dundubi 買啲
Probably
dundubi。
get a better thing as someone to play them.
That's the problem.
點樣去到打咧都係個問題。
Okay, so such details are given in this description.
咁所以喺呢一度描述咧有好多嘅細節啊。
There are other descriptions of the rasa dance, one of them by Krishna Kshetra Swami.
咁仲有其他嘅描述咧，其中一個描述咧係Krishna Kshetra Swami 所講嘅。
Who wrote one Sanskrit work called gopī-maṇḍala-maṇḍitaḥ.
咁咧佢寫咗個梵文嘅著作咧，係叫做 gopī-maṇḍala-maṇḍitaḥ。
So I thought to share with you a short passage.
咁呢個係
This
告別嘅
description.
逍遙時光甘露啦。咁我同大家分享一個好短嘅一個描述。
So sometimes Krishna danced alone while Radha and other Sakis melodiously sang wonderfully complicated talas. Tala means rhythm.
咁所以有時咧 Krishna 咧會自己一個獨自跳舞啦。咁同一時間咧 Radharani 咧同埋夢牛姑娘咧會好唱一啲好優美嘅一啲嘅旋律咧，啲旋律有啲特別嘅韻律嘅。
And Radha and her Sakis danced one by one with captivating gestures.
咁Radha 同埋夢牛姑娘咧會逐個咁樣跳舞啦，然之後咧佢哋所跳舞嘅姿態咧係好迷人嘅。
It says some of the gopis were playing musical instruments such as veenas.
咁有一啲嘅夢牛姑娘咧就會去到演奏樂器啦，好似vina。
And they were singing a certain type of song called pravanda.
咁佢哋會唱某一類嘅歌曲咧，就叫做pravanda。
Krishna repeatedly entered the circle of gopis and moved his lotus feet to the various talas.
咁所以Krishna 咧就進入咗呢一個嘅圈裏面啦，然之後同夢牛姑娘跳舞咧，就佢嘅蓮花足咧係根據住呢一個嘅韻律旋律去到跳動嘅。
Enlivening the gopis, he danced, giving them bliss.
然之後咧令到咧夢牛姑娘咧非常之興奮啦，跟住同跳舞同佢一齊起舞啦，佢充滿住喜樂嘅。
By calling out the following.
然之後咧，佢哋就會呼喊住以下。
Tas tata tate drigiti drigitai drik tatai drik tatai ta. Try translating. Furthermore, he chanted apparently. Todik dam dam kita kita kana jem toku to dikku are jem dram kiti 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 dam jem pujem jem todik dam dreamy dam ken kujem dram agatyaivam natati saharis charupata pravadam. So Krishna recited this, and that's what it sounds like. So now you know what Krishna sounds like when he dances.
咁所以呢個就係 Krishna 跳舞嘅時候，佢咧會去到念誦頭先我所去到念誦出嚟嗰啲嘅字句。
It also mentions how Radharani sounds when she dances.
咁亦都有去到提到當 Radharani 跳舞嘅時候，佢會點樣去到佢會講會有啲咩説話？
You want to hear that?
想唔想聽？
Okay, here it goes.
Is this what they sound like, or Krishna calls out these talas when he's dancing?
It seems that he calls out as he's dancing.
咁應該係當 Krishna 去到跳舞嘅時候，佢係唱到出嚟嘅，係有發聲嘅。
But the phrase at the end of what I just read says Krishna danced to the recitation of Todik Dam Dam, etc.
咁但係裏面又講到 Krishna 跳舞嘅時候係根據頭先唱嗰啲韻律去到跳嘅。
And then it says Radharani danced blissfully to the following sounds.
咁由呢度之後講到 Radharani 咧係好開心咁樣跳住舞啦，根據以下嘅聲音。
Dam dam drik drik chan chan ninan nan ninan nan ninan nan tuk tuk tun tun guru 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 dam guru dram dek dek do do kiriti dram dreamy dram agatyaivam mukuri ha muda shri ma isha nanarta. Yeah. Too much ecstasy.
太過狂喜。
Anyway, all this celebration is going on,
咁所以有呢啲嘅慶祝。
and it's described in brief, we can say, in Bhagavatam.
咁喺《gopī-maṇḍala-maṇḍitaḥ》咧係好扼要咁樣去到描述嘅。
There's more, actually goes beyond verse 10 with descriptions.
咁之後有更加多嘅描述咧，一直咧去到第10節詩。
And then it's summarized, verse 16. In this way, Lord Krishna, the original Lord Narayana, master of the goddess of fortune, took pleasure in the company of the young women of Raja by embracing them, caressing them, and glancing lovingly at them as he smiled his broad, playful smiles. It was just as if a child were playing with his own reflection.
所以第16節詩嘅時候就做咗一個概述啦，就講到主 Krishna 原始嘅主 Narayana 幸運女神嘅夫君，通過擁抱牧牛姑娘，愛撫佢哋，同埋喺燦爛俏皮地微笑時，充滿愛意咁樣瞥視佢哋，享受由 Raja 年輕女子陪伴嘅樂趣，就好似一個孩子同佢嘅自己嘅影子喺度玩耍。
So, the analogy that's given of Krishna's like a child playing with its own reflection, I think is a suggestion. Poetry is about suggestion. That indeed this whole thing going on is all happening in a spirit of innocence. It's innocent love.
咁所以喺最後一句裏面描述到一個比喻咧，就係 Krishna 咧就好似一個小朋友同佢自己嘅影子喺度玩咯。咁其實呢啲詩全部都係啲詩嚟嘅。咁佢有一個暗示咧，就係話其實呢一種愛咧係非常之天真無邪。
But then verse 18 is interesting. It starts out, Krishna vikrīditam diksha. The demigods, or the wives of the demigods, they see Krishna's playful activity.
咁喺第18節嘅時候咧，非常之有意思，就講到咧，半神人嘅妻子咧見到 Krishna 嘅娛樂活動，佢哋喺飛機上面。
And again, playfulness suggests, it seems to me, innocence.
咁呢度所講嘅娛樂活動咧，都係一種好天真嘅娛樂活動。
But then right away after this it says, Kāma-ardita-sasaṅkācha. This agitated them with lust.
咁之後嗰度咧講到，當半神人嘅妻子見到呢個情景嘅時候咧，佢哋睇到神魂顛倒，而且咧受到色欲嘅刺激。
In any case, in verse 19, we are reminded that Krishna is Atmarama.
咁第19節嘅時候咧，我哋被提醒就係 Krishna 咧，其實佢係 Atmarama， 意思即係一個自給自足嘅人，自我滿足嘅人。
So he enjoys and he is self-satisfied.
咁所以咧佢好享受啦，但係同一時間佢係自我滿足嘅。
So that may also seem like a kind of paradox.
咁所以呢兩節詩對比起嚟嘅時候，就造成一個對比啦。
Well, it goes on from there. They have some more fun after the dance. Then they all go into the Yamuna and they splash around. They splash each other.
咁喺佢哋跳完舞之後咧，佢哋繼續一齊去到嬉戲啦。咁佢哋去到Yamuna河嗰度咧，然之後咧係去到潑水。
And still the demigods are watching.
咁當時咧，本神係繼續目睹呢件事嘅。
But they're also doing what demigods seem to like to do when they like something going on earth. They supply flower petals.
咁所以佢哋呢啲本神人咧，佢哋會好中意做嘅就係佢哋咧會喺上空咧會灑花，佢哋會提供呢啲花花。
They always seem to have plenty of supply of flower petals.
咁睇嚟佢哋有源源不絕嘅呢個鮮花嘅供應。
And after this, they come out of the Yamuna and they go wandering in the forest.
然之後咧，佢哋就離開咗Yamuna河咧，就去到咧森林裏面啦。
Okay, so then Shukadeva Goswami says explicitly, verse 25, the Lord was not internally affected by any mundane sex desire.
咁所以呢個 Swami 咧喺第25節詩嘅時候咧，好清晰咁樣去到表達啦。Krishna 咧係唔會受任何世俗嘅色欲咧所去到影響嘅。
And yet he wanted to enjoy, and so this is how he enjoys.
但係咧佢好喜歡去到享受啦，呢個咧就係佢享受嘅方式。
And then the remainder of the chapter begins with Maharaj Parikshit saying, he says kind of like, wait, what's all of this about?
跟住去到呢一章嘅後部分咧 ，Parikshit Maharaj 咧就問咗個問題啦，究竟點解會發生呢啲事嘅咧？等。
How are we supposed to think about this?
我哋點樣去到能夠去到明白咧，去到思索咧呢一啲事咧？
We're understanding that Krishna is Bhagavan, and Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is all about establishing religious principles, and what kind of religious principle is this?
咁所以 Parikshit Maharaj 就講啦 ，Krishna 咧係 Bhagavan 啦，即係至尊人格守神啦。咁咧佢嘅其中一個任務咧就係去到咧重建宗教嘅原則。呢啲係咩嘅宗教原則？
To which Shukadev gives an extended answer with various arguments.
然之後 Sukadeva Swami 咧就俾咗一個解釋啦、解答啦，係有好多嘅理據喺當中。
So here we can say the rest of the chapter is a kind of framing of the whole Rasa Lila.
所以咧之後嘅Sukadeva Swami 所講嘅説話咧，我哋可以睇成咧係咧去到為呢個嘅嗰間雅壇呢個內容咧係有一個俾咗一個框架。
He's giving us tips about how we should understand this lila.
所以咧佢俾咗我哋嘅提示啦，我哋應該咧點樣去到理解呢一個逍遙時光。
His first argument, you can say, is the powerful controller's argument.
咁第一個嘅理據咧就係一個強有力嘅控制者嘅理據。
That what they can do is not what we can do. I mean, the other way around. What they can do much more than we can do, and we cannot compare.
所以咧，佢哋所做到嘅嘢咧，我哋係做唔到嘅，所以我哋兩者之間咧係冇辦法比擬嘅。
Why? Because he gives an analogy. They're like fire. Fire burns and purifies at the same time.
咁其中一個比喻咧，裏面講到個比喻咧就係呢一種嘅情形咧，就好似大火一樣。大火咧會吞滅即係燒毀一切咯。但係咧佢同一時間咧佢又唔會受到污染嘅。
And the fire remains unpolluted.
所以嗰個火咧雖然係吞滅其他嘅事物啦，但係佢咧自己本身咧係不受污染。
The next verse is stating the don't imitate argument.
然之後下一節詩咧就講到唔好咧去到模仿呢一種嘅行為。
Don't think, oh, Krishna does rasa dance, I will also do rasa dance.
所以唔好諗住 Krishna 咧可以跳 rasa 舞啦，我都可以跳 rasa 舞。
And the third argument, verse 31, is saying we should follow the teachings of the great teachers.
咁喺第31節嘅時候咧，第三個理據咧就我哋應該咧跟隨呢一啲嘅老師嘅榜樣。
And I think the suggestion here is that the teachers are saying don't imitate.
咁所以老師嘅教導就係話唔好模仿。
Also, the teachers are not subject to sinful reactions because of their purity.
咁因為呢啲老師咧，佢係有呢一個嘅純粹咯，咁所以純潔咯，所以佢哋係唔會受到呢一個罪惡嘅反應所去到影響嘅。
He actually is speaking of great persons, and so the Lord is the greatest person.
咁我哋呢度講到偉大嘅人物啦，其實主係最偉大嘅人物嚟。
And so by, I don't know what it's called, but a kind of extension of the argument, the Lord is the greatest, and so there's no question of Him being connected connected to the piety or impiety to which we are subjected.
咁我可以話呢個理據有一個延伸啦，就係因為至尊主咧佢係最偉大啦，所以咧佢同我哋所去到睇嗰種嘅虔誠啦，或者唔虔誠咧係冇呢個關聯嘅。
And the next verse is a glorification of the devotees.
然之後再下一節詩咧係去到榮耀奉獻者。
It says material activities never entangle the devotees of the Supreme Lord.
所以裏面講到呢啲物質嘅活動咧，從來咧都唔會去到捆綁至尊主嘅奉獻者。
Who are fully satisfied by serving the dust of his lotus feet.
咁佢哋咧係服務至尊主嘅蓮花中咧，係而感到咧完全嘅滿足。
So how could there be any question of bondage for the Lord himself, the Lord who is worshipped by these devotees?
咁所以當奉獻者咧去到崇拜呢位主嘅時候咧，又點會出現捆綁咧？
Which kind of all points back, all the way back to a point in first canto of Bhagavatam, Atma-rāmas-cha-munayo, those who are self-satisfied, they are attracted to the Bhagavatam despite being self-satisfied, because the activities of the Lord are so attractive, are all attractive.
咁所以呢度又回應咗《gopī-maṇḍala-maṇḍitaḥ》嘅第一篇裏面講到咧，嗰啲自我滿足嘅人啦，佢哋係受呢個gopī-maṇḍala-maṇḍitaḥ嘅吸引啦。雖然咧佢哋本身已經係自我滿足，但係因為gopī-maṇḍala-maṇḍitaḥ係如此有吸引力，所以佢哋會去到閱讀gopī-maṇḍala-maṇḍitaḥ。
Then a further argument is given, verse 35, that the Lord is the overseeing witness within the hearts of the gopis and also within the hearts of their so-called husbands.
咁喺第35節裏面講到，至尊主咧亦都係一個監督者啦、見證者啦，佢係住喺牧牛姑娘同埋佢哋丈夫嘅心中嘅。
So keep in mind who we're speaking about. That Lord who is present in everyone's heart, including the husbands of the gopis, can't be doing wrong.
所以咧，我哋要好清楚究竟我哋所講嘅呢一位主咧係一個點樣嘅人物啦。佢係處於咧每一個生物體嘅心中咧，甚至咧亦都係住喺牧牛姑娘咧丈夫嘅心中。
Then a further argument: why does the Lord do such an activity as the rasa dance?
咁然之後再講落去咧，就係點解至尊主咧要去到上演呢一個嘅拿沙之舞咧？
Anugrahaya-bhaktānām, in order to give mercy to his devotees.
其實咧係向佢嘅奉獻者咧展示仁慈。
And he does this in order to attract the devotees to hear about such activities.
同一時間咧係吸引咧奉獻者咧去到聆聽有關佢嘅活動。
Furthermore, you may be worried about the cowherd men whose wives have left to go to the forest.
咁你可能會擔心嗰一啲嘅牧牛郎啦，因為佢哋嘅妻子咧去咗森林裏面。
But Sukadeva Goswami reassures us. He says, the cowherd men, bewildered by Krishna's illusory potency, thought their wives had remained home at their sides. Thus they did not harbor any jealous feelings against him.
咁所以 Sukadeva Goswami 講到牧牛人啦，受到 Krishna 嘅錯覺能量所迷惑，所以佢哋以為佢哋嘅妻子咧留喺屋企同埋佢哋一齊，佢哋咧對 Krishna 咧冇任何嘅反感，甚至嫉妒嘅感覺。
So again, this was a cosmic event, and it was cosmic in terms of demigods seeing from higher dimension.
咁所以整件事咧，其實係一個宇宙性嘅事件嚟嘅。咁本世人咧係喺一個更加高嘅層面嗰度咧係望落去。
And it was also cosmic in terms of time passage.
咁另外都係一個宇宙性嘅事件啦，就係佢嘅時間性。
So it says in verse 38 that this dance went on Brahma Ratra for an entire night of Brahma.
所以呢一個嘅逍遙時光咧係整係 Brahma 嘅一整個夜晚嘅時間。
Which is how many years?
係幾多年
？4 billion, 300 million.
43億
Something.
40億43億年。
It's a long time.
好長嘅時間。
It was a long dance.
好長。
And it seems Krishna didn't get tired.
好似 Krishna 跳亦都唔會攰嘅。
The gopis didn't get tired.
嗰邊亦都唔會疲倦。
And they didn't get bored.
亦都唔會覺得悶。
They were going dik dik dam dam, chitty chitty chitty, chitty chitty dam, kitty 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 dam, kitty dam. But then at the end of that night, what does Krishna say?
咁去到嗰一晚嘅最後嘅時候咧 ，Krishna 講咗啲咩説話咧
He says, maybe you should go back home now.
？Krishna 就對我話：我諗你哋應該係時候翻屋企啦。
It says the gopis didn't want to go home, but they complied with his command.
咁無牛姑娘至尊主嘅愛人啦，佢哋唔想咁樣做啦，唔願意咁樣做啦，但係最後咧都係遵從咗佢嘅命令。
And finally, we have the Palashruti is the last verse, which gives Palashruti the result of hearing this pastime.
咁最後咧一個詩節咧就講到，我哋去到聆聽整個逍遙時光咧，所能夠得到嘅呢個結果。
Gṛhītānāṁ rajavarudirvidam ca Vishno shradhandito nashinoya atavarnaya bhaktim param bhagavati pratilabyakāmam kritrogam ashvapahino chachirena. Anyone who faithfully hears or describes the Lord's playful affairs with the young gopis of Vrindavan will attain the Lord's pure devotional service. Thus, he will quickly become sober and conquer lust, the disease of the heart.
所以聆聽呢一段逍遙時光嘅結果就係邊個誠心誠意咁樣去聆聽，或者描述至尊主同溫達文牧牛姑娘嘅之間嘅戀愛遊戲，佢就會得到為至尊主做純粹奉愛服務嘅層面，就會達到為至尊主做純粹奉愛服務嘅層面。呢一個人會因此而好快變得清醒同埋穩重，征服心病。呢個心病所指咧係貪圖物質享樂嘅慾望。
So that's good news.
好消息。
Comments, questions?
Last, like some devotees would say, like before we read this Rasa Lila on chapter 10, first we have to complete Canto 1 to Canto 9, like a preparation.
Yeah.
But at the same time, here it says that it will how us to conquer our this material enjoyment desire. So it's okay. What if we haven't completed Canto 1 to Canto 9? Can we still listen or what is advice?
Well, you've just listened.
已經聽咗啦。咁個問題就係話我哋有時話我哋讀完第1篇至到第9篇，跟住先至進入第10篇。咁如果我哋冇呢個前期嘅即係閱讀，咁之後就即係聽呢一段逍遙時光，咁可唔可以咁樣咧？或者有啲咩嘅建議咧
Yeah, Prabhupada strongly urges us to complete the first 9 cantos in order to understand who is Krishna.
咁所以聖巴巴係好強烈啦，咁樣去到要求咧係我哋係完成呢個第1至到第9篇啦，去到認識究竟 Krishna 係一位點樣嘅人物。
So if you haven't finished, you can go back.
咁如果仲未完成，我可以翻轉頭讀。
I've probably told you once, but we have this now retired, very highly respected professor in Oxford, professor of theology, who helped us very much in establishing our academic institute there. So Shonaka Rishi, our center director, gave him a gift of the Bhagavatam set.
咁所以喺牛津大學咧有一位教授已經退咗休㗎啦。咁咧我哋但係佢好好啦，佢神學嘅教授嚟嘅。咁佢我哋嘅呢一個印度研究中心嘅負責人啦 ，Shonaka Rishi Prabhu 咧，佢就送咗一個禮物俾佢，就係整套嘅國家雅壇。
So after some days, he visited the center, and Shonaka was asking, "So, did you get some time to read some of the Bhagavatam?"
咁於是有一日佢就去到個中心嗰度啦，就見到 Shonaka Prabhu 就問佢啦：你有冇啲時間花啲時間去睇一睇國家雅壇？
And he said, "Yes, I started Canto 1."
我已經開始睇第一篇啦。
And I was reading in the purport. It says there that one should not jump over the first 9 cantos to the 10th canto.
咁所以我喺第一篇嘅時候已經睇到啦，就講到一個人咧唔應該直接跳到去第10篇，喺即係未睇第1至第9篇之前。
So when I read that, I couldn't resist. I jumped right over and started on the 10th canto.
佢話當我睇到嗰一句嘅時候，我就係忍唔住啦，我就直接跳去第10篇去睇。
So Srila Prabhupada seems to have anticipated that tendency, and so he translated the 10th canto as Krishna.
咁所以 Krishna 聖巴巴已經知道我哋有呢一種嘅傾向，所以佢先去到翻譯第10篇啦，就係寫成呢本Krishna 快樂的傳嘅一本書。
This is the question for yesterday. So you mentioned that the gopis they forget. Are they actually separate from Krishna? Because in general, because if we are always meditating on someone, thinking of someone, is it the separation mentioned here, the gopis and Krishna, physical separation or many speculation, or kind of like what type of separation?
What type of separation?
Because they are pure devotees, so they are always thinking of Krishna, so there will be no question about separation.
Yeah.
咁個問題就係黃姑娘佢係咪即係呢個軀體上面所軀體咧就係同 Krishna 分開咗咧？定係佢哋心意啦，因為佢哋經常都係諗住 Krishna 嘅，咁呢一種係一種點樣嘅分離咧
Well, sometimes we make a distinction between tattva and rasa.
咁我哋有時就會有分兩類嘅，一種咧就叫係 tattva 就係真理，另外一個就係 rasa 呢個關係。
So in terms of tattva, or what is the ontological reality, we can say yes, they were never separated.
咁所以我哋如果用 tattva 嘅角度去睇嘅時候咧，咁我哋就其實佢哋係冇分離過嘅。
But in terms of rasa, that's all it was. It was a feeling of total sense of absence.
但我哋用 rasa 嘅角度去睇嘅時候，其實就係一種分離咯，佢哋嗰種好強烈嘅嗰種嘅分離之情。
And when later, when Krishna leaves Vrindavan to Mathura, and then he asks Uddhava to please go and bring a message to the residents of Vrindavan. So Uddhava comes with a message of, you can say, a message of tattva.
咁所以之後咧Krishna 咧係離開咗 Vrindavan 去到 Mathura 啦，然之後咧佢就派送咗咧Uddhava 咧係將一個信息咧帶俾Vrindavan 嘅居民。咁 Uddhava 所帶嘅信息咧其實係屬於叫 tattva。
Basically saying Krishna is always with you. He is never left. He is there. He's in your heart.
咁個 tattva 佢個信息就係話，其實 Krishna 咧時刻都同埋你一齊㗎，佢從來都冇離開過你㗎，佢喺你嘅心中。
And the gopis are saying like, yeah, tell us about it.
咁啲無辜啦，係啊，唔好啦，講 就係咁講。
It didn't touch them. They said, we want to come on. We want to see Krishna.
咁所以其實並冇真係觸動到佢哋，佢哋真係佢哋想見到 Krishna。
And actually, it's like the women are more. They want pure love. Like we have a husband, we have children, and we have the kitchen. 3 things at home. And then Krishna understood that the men are not perfect. They don't give us pure love. It's more of lust or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Same thing with the gopis.
Yeah.
So Krishna satisfied. Like we come to the temple and we go back, like we are respected. If we don't come to that, like we go somewhere else because we want a 4th place to go. We have only the kitchen and the sleeping room and the living room. Yeah. So this is the 4th place completes our life. And then when we go back home, we are respected. Like we are not gone anywhere else. Our husbands are happy,
Yeah, yeah.
and we are also happy. We are away from them. Like we are getting pure love over here.
You get a break from them.
Yeah. So the gopis got pure love and like they were satisfied. And when they went back, their husbands also were happy with them. Like
That's
Krishna
interesting.
satisfied.
That's an interesting point. Okay. All right. Thank you all very much. I hope this overview of, well, we did 4 of the 5 chapters really, but I hope this was somehow helpful for everyone.
咁我就去到同大家分享咗呢個5章啦，裏面其中嘅4章，咁希望可以幫到大家去。
Srila Prabhupada, Srimad-Bhagavatam.